Welcome to Jon's Motorcycle Podcast, available for download at motorcyclistpodcast.com. Episode 7. A Pennsylvania Ride with a Friend. August 3rd, 2007 began as a beautiful morning when I pulled out of Churchville, New York, in the greater Rochester area. I was off to see a friend. Our meeting place was Java Center, New York, as my friend was meeting me from Niagara Falls, Canada. My route to Java Center was pretty uneventful. Traffic was typically light. Heading south on Route 77, up ahead I saw a person being pulled over by one of Wyoming County's finest. My guess is that individual was getting a speeding ticket. As I reached the intersection for Java Center, it's a pretty uneventful intersection. There's a small post office, and if you head east just a block, you'll come across a mobile station that's really old school. It just has the two pumps, maybe 6 feet from the road, and then the door's about 12 feet from the pumps. Real small mom and pop operation. Seeing that my friend from Niagara Falls, by the name of Peter Beans, wasn't at the gas station and he wasn't at the post office, I figured I was the first one there. So I got off the motorcycle, sat at the intersection, waiting, helmet off, sitting down, having a drink of water. Now as I'm sitting there, heading north in the direction I came from, goes another Wyoming County Sheriff. A few minutes goes by, and I hear a couple of motorcycles heading my way. I turn to look, and it's a couple of Harley riders. So they turn off of 77, take a left onto 78, and I hear them go down the road, and I assume they probably were stopping for gas at the gas station just down the road. A short while after the two Harley riders take a left right in front of me as they go across the front of the post office, I hear another motorcycle coming up. This time I recognize the motorcycle. It's my friend Peter Beans from Niagara Falls, Ontario. Before I can stand up to offer him a handshake, he drives straight past the parking lot I'm waiting in. Am I invisible? No, that can't be. He gave me a wait 1 second signal with his left hand. Following right behind him was a Wyoming County Sheriff, and as he makes the left-hand turn, on go the lights. Oh, I understand now. Peter's being chased by this policeman. Well, first thing that goes through my head is, this is going to put a damper on the day's ride. For a couple of minutes, I stand there like a dork in this parking lot. I decide I'm going to take a ride over to the gas station and see if I can't, work things out between the two of them. I don't know. I just pack up, get on my bike, and I ride over to the gas station. As I pull into the gas station, I see Peter and the police officer having the last exchange of words. Peter's packing up his paperwork. Of course, the two Harley riders are there right next to the pumps. The police officer pulls away as the Harley riders snicker and laugh. Only they witnessed what I missed. Exactly what Peter said or did to get out of a speeding ticket, which apparently would have been pretty hefty. I'm sure I'll never know. After Peter's dramatic entrance into town, we decided we were going to head down to Bradford, Pennsylvania to grab our breakfast. Had I not been a big fan of Alton Brown's television show Feasting on Asphalt, I probably would have driven ourselves right into the nearest McDonald's when we got to Bradford, Pennsylvania. Instead, I wanted a little bit more of the local flair. So I stopped and asked a man at the side of the road who was preparing for a yard sale outside of some volunteer organization, "Where's a great place to get some food around here?" So we ended up having breakfast at Tiffany's. Well, not quite. The owner's name was Jim, and he owned a little establishment called the Kennedy Street Cafe. Tiffany happened to be our waitress that day. In addition to serving us wonderful corned beef hash, the special of the day, she gave us some tips and ideas on how to best enjoy the Kinzua Bridge Park right down the road, which was on our agenda. The Kennedy Street Cafe is a real American type of restaurant. It's a little sliver in a building. You can talk right to the owner, where him and his wife are behind the counter cooking up breakfast. After talking to the owner for a while, turns out he has worked in my hometown area, and he lost his license commuting back and forth. These backcountry cops were writing him tickets on his way back and forth to work, and he ended up losing his license over it. He quit that job and ended up buying this cafe in Bradford. The word cafe in the name of the place really dresses it up a little bit more. If you haven't seen it, it's more of a diner style of a restaurant. So if you're ever in Bradford, Pennsylvania, and you want to get a good bite to eat, stop in and see Jim on Kennedy Street at the Kennedy Street Cafe. Next, Peter and I headed south on 219. On our way to the Kinzua Bridge State Park, we stopped in Mount Jewett for some gas. Peter and I have the same motorcycle, the same year, 2005 DL650 V-Strom. For some reason, his bike gets about 10% more miles per gallon than mine. The theory held true again as we pumped our gas, and he was getting over 50 miles a gallon to my 46 miles a gallon. Why split hairs over gasoline? We got to check out the Kinzua Bridge. Quoted from the AMA's Ride Guide to America, the Kinzua Bridge is a railroad viaduct originally constructed in the year 1882. It's 2,053 feet long, and at its center, it stands 301 feet above the valley floor. At the time it was completed, it was the world's highest and longest railroad bridge. What's really nice about riding a motorcycle on the back roads of America is you go through small towns. In most of these small towns, probably all of them, have some claim to fame, or there's some attraction there. The Kinzua Bridge makes Mount Jewett a popular place. The Zippo lighter factory in Bradford, Pennsylvania, that's another example of, there's something specific to see in just about any town. If you're passing through Franklinville, New York, you may want to know that in 1999, Kimberly Pressler won the Miss USA title. You'll be greeted as you enter Franklinville with that information on their welcome sign. But every now and then on a motorcycle, you're given even more of a bonus. On July 21st, 2003, the Kinzua Viaduct collapsed due to a tornado that ripped through the area. To this day, you can actually see the path the tornado took. From the southwest to the northeast, it knocked down timbers and it took out most of the viaduct bridge. The bonus for Peter and I was that the only man on the premises at the time the tornado went through happened to be sitting at the Kinzua Bridge Welcome Center the day and hour we visited. Let's talk about Earl. First off, Earl can talk. He's also a wealth of knowledge about Pennsylvania. He retired recently after serving for 30 years for the Pennsylvania State Parks. He knows the state flower of every state. He knows how many square inches are in Pennsylvania. He seemed to have like a canned list of questions he would just ask visitors. He asked me how many towns were in Pennsylvania. Before I even had a chance to answer, he said, nope, there's only one. The rest of them are boroughs. It was that kind of stuff. There was an entertainment quality in his picnic table presentation. After a short while of listening to Earl, Peter's taking pictures of Earl, I decide it's time we get the wheels of these V-Stroms rolling. By now, we have been to the Kinzua Bridge for a lengthy amount of time, and we had many miles left in Pennsylvania to cover today. I excused myself to use the restroom. When I came back and we were exchanging parting words with one another, Earl asked us, where are you headed later today? Like bozos, we ended up telling him we would probably end up at the Drake Oil Well Museum in Titusville. So Earl then breaks into a big smirk and says, yeah, I used to know so-and-so who worked over there. Yeah, if you see so-and-so, tell him Earl says hello, or some Earl was going to bust his chops somehow. Somehow watching Earl live the glory days of his career added some enrichment to the day. Near Chaffee, Pennsylvania on Route 66, I stopped in a little general store to pick up some souvenirs from my trip to bring back to my son and daughter. There's a large network of ATV trails in the area, and it looked like a fun place to take your ATVs and tent, go camping, and ride some nice trails. Up Route 948 to Barnes, Pennsylvania, went Peter and I. At Barnes, we picked up the end of Route 666. We had read this was a great motorcycling road, and we were going to check it out on our trip. After we got past some of the rougher parts in the beginning, we came across a nice corner. It was an S-curve bisected by a bridge with the running water underneath it. It was at this place that Peter was going to get our killboy.com type pictures of us riding through the curves, enjoying the day. His photography skills are much better than mine. Therefore, you can guess whose pictures turned out better. Route 666 between Barnes and really Kellettville is nice. It's twisty, but the road is way too rough to get into a rhythm and to enjoy. I should state that between Kellettville and East Hickory, 666 is real nice. Approaching East Hickory, Peter and I rode past this old school building, meeting house type structure. As Peter and I took a break and looked at this structure from afar, Peter taking pictures, we noticed a gentleman across the street fiddling in the trunk of his car. So I shoot across the street, hey, buddy, what can you tell me about this building? The man decides he's going to go get a shirt on, then come on over and talk to us. Grab a cigarette. What we learned from Troy was that he was born in 1963, and he went to that building up through 6th grade. It was his school. Somewhere in the 70s or 80s, they dissolved the school district. What was fields of tall grass around us, as he described what he knew, transformed the place into a schoolyard with baseball fields and swing sets and kids. Flagpole in the center. The property is now owned by a contractor who apparently owes a lot of people money, and he sort of let the property go. And Troy said he thinks he's going to come out at one point and just watch the thing burn to the ground. The current owner of the property has people that angry with him, apparently. Another interesting tidbit about the Endeavor School is that there's a sawmill right down the street, and apparently the owners of the sawmill built the school for the town's youth way back when. We bid farewell to Troy and Endeavor and made our way down Route 62 to Oil City, where we had lunch at Spillin' the Beans Cafe. 62 to Oil City is a road worth taking. Very nice road. As Peter and I are enjoying our lunch at Spillin' the Beans, we spied a V-Strom 650 owner outside driving around the street. We continued eating, and he parked his V-Strom next to our two, and we studied him walk around studying our bikes. Finished with my lunch, having enough to do, ready to roll again, decided to take a walk outside and introduce myself. The V-Strom rider's name was John, and it turns out he was a reverend in the area. We swapped a few bike stories. We talked about some of the changes that we've made to our motorcycles and what we've added or removed. And then we were on our way after exchanging contact information. Among the motorcycling community, people do feel a bond, but there's a special bond with those that have the same motorcycle with you. Heading for our final destination out of Oil City, Peter and I jumped on Route 8 to 227 to 27 to bring us into Titusville. Along this route, traveling at, let's say, 60 miles an hour, I noticed a little deer on the side of the road. Surprisingly, this is the only deer we really saw. Another thing that jumped out at me at about 60 or 70 miles an hour on Route 27 heading west into Titusville, I noticed a street sign with my wife's name on it, Lori Drive. So I turned around, took a picture, had Peter take some shots. This was a good way to prove to my wife, honey, I'm really thinking of you when I'm out there on the road. Once we got to Titusville, we visited the Drake Oil Museum. Apparently, a man by the name of Drake was the first person to extract oil from the earth and turn it into a fuel that could be consumed. This museum is a pretty good-sized museum. Peter and I didn't check out the whole museum as there's many artifacts and buildings to spend time in. After an hour or so, time was getting a little late, and we decided it was time to head home. After a quick milkshake and a call home, we decided it was time to roll. South of Buffalo, just off Route 90, Peter and I gassed up for one last time. I was pleased to find out I was getting 50 miles per gallon. We said our official goodbyes along the highway. We parted directions and made it home. Another great ride. The end. You can email me at Jon, Jon, at motorcyclistpodcast.com. Love to hear from you.